Hi, everybody. My name is John DePietro.
And I'm Bob Zagami with the Camper Report Show.
Bob, this week's Camper Report Show has something for everyone.
As always, and it gets bigger and better every week, John. I'll tell you, this one we're going to be a little short on the front end because we have so much on the back end.
Exactly. So let's talk about the news that's going on this week, and then we'll tell our viewers what we've got for our features. But you know what? We've been talking for the past few weeks about the Tampa RV show, and now it's over. What have you found out about attendance?
The attendance was down about 25%, but they attribute 15% of that to those Canadian snowbirds that we talked about a couple of weeks ago that weren't able to go to the show. So being down 10%, minus the Canadians, isn't bad. Less people, but interesting enough, more sales. The people that went were absolutely there to buy product and came from a farther distance. It wasn't just Florida people, recognizing that there were so few shows. People from Texas, even New Mexico. One person even came from Alaska just to see the Florida show.
Wow, that's pretty good. At least they picked the right time of the year to do so. Now, the other thought that comes to mind when you talk about Canada is that you sat in on the Canadian Outdoor Hospitality Association's annual meeting. What were the topics that were discussed by our Canadian friends?
Yeah, this was the first time that they did it virtual. They did a phenomenal job. And it's for campground owners. So they were talking about buying and building campgrounds. They were talking about the changing demographics, the impact of COVID, the travelers, the requirements to educate them more and have them comfortable. And they did it. The software that they used was developed by one of their sponsors. So when you look at these virtual and online events, some of them are good, but some of them are bad. And this one was exceptional. A lot of networking. I had the ability to go into a speed dating type session and talk to. You got 3 minutes at the session. I talked to several Canadian campground owners, and we talked about the difference between America and Canada. That part of it was fantastic. They had breakout rooms, 30-minute sessions, and Toby O'Rourke once again was the highlight of a camping and or RV outdoor show. She delivered the keynote and had a lot of it customized towards the Canadian statistics that they found out in the North American Camper Report. But all signs are for an incredible year up in Canada. They've got a lot of activity going on up there. So much like the United States,
Yep.
it's going to be a banner camping year up there.
And speaking of camping, our friends at Girl Camper have come up with another very interesting raffle for charity. Tell us what you know about that.
Well, yeah, and we have to kind of rush on this one in terms of the end of it. Everybody got so busy with COVID and changing out programs and doing virtual conferences and everything. Janine Pettit and the group fell a little bit behind on their selling their raffle tickets, so we need to help her out a little bit. And it's a Relic custom trailer. Beautiful. We'll throw some pictures up there. Great little trailer and the raffle ticket is only $10, but the raffle is on Valentine's Day, February 14th. So we're going to help her get that message out on some of our other shows. And we're also going to put the information down below, but it's your chance. If you aren't ready to buy a camper, it's a great chance to win a camper.
Exactly. And speaking of camping, you have a great manufacturer that you spoke to in this show. Tell us what we've got coming up.
Yeah, I had a great conversation today with Coley Brady, who is a co-founder along with his brother Ryan of Alliance RV, brand new RV manufacturer that actually made their introduction at Tampa last year with 4 units. They went back this year with 11 units. 4 of them are their new toy hauler, and they do business a little differently. They got a nice business philosophy. They did some crowdsourcing as they developed their product plans. Great conversation with Coley.
So, and one of the topics that we've been talking about for several months now here on the Camper Report show is the difference in the people that are coming into the RV market that have never been in here before. We were talking about 50% of the buyers in 2020 being first-time buyers, and we're talking about different economic levels. We're talking about different geographic areas that people are coming from, but also we're talking about different backgrounds and occupations. And the person that we're speaking with today in our segment is internationally known author and speaker, David Meerman Scott. And David, and you know, because you helped him purchase his Winnebago Revel, similar to the one right behind me. He's so excited, and we can't wait to tell his story today, along with your story about Alliance RV.
Well, our show is so good tonight, we decided to forego our time and shorten up our time so that we could get right to our speakers.
And with that being said, stay with us here on the Camper Report Show. We've got a great show coming up right after these very important messages.
Are you having trouble with RV trip planning?
Hey guys, we're Phil and Stacy from You, Me, and the RV.
And we're here to tell you about our favorite planner, RV Trip Wizard.
You can choose from over 20,000 campgrounds using filters to search for the types of campgrounds you love, like national parks or BLM, or our favorite, Army Corps of Engineer parks. You can even check reviews before you make a reservation.
Want to learn more? Head over to rvlife.com and learn about their entire RV bundle. And we'll see you on the road.
Okay, welcome back everybody to the Camper Report Show, and my guest this morning is Coley Brady, one of the co-founders of Alliance RV. And if you haven't heard of Alliance RV, shame on you. But Coley, welcome to the show. If they haven't heard of Alliance RV, tell us a little bit about what you got going there.
Yeah, well, thank you, Bob, for having me on here today. So Alliance RV was started by my brother and I, Ryan, and I back in April of 2019. So we started our company. We've had past experience. Ryan and I both were at Heartland previously before venturing out to start up Alliance. And we really took the first 8 months just to kind of, one, build the team, and two, really listen to the RV consumer, kind of trying to hear what their pain points, their frustrations were with current product offerings out there. And we started up a Facebook group, got people from the actual RV community to join, and really did a lot of listening. And then we began our prototyping in the fall of 2019, and tweaked it along the way, and came out, shipped our first units in December of 2019. Then we got into a number of RV shows in the first 60 days of calendar year 2020. And we were in 19 different RV shows. We partnered up with some of the best dealers across North America. And we're really getting the word out at the shows, and had a lot of good response from retail consumers. And then obviously COVID hit, and we were in a little bit of a dark spot there, trying to get through all of that. But came back strong, and here we are today in early 2021, and just got back yesterday from the Florida RV Tampa RV Super Show, and had a great show down there. And the product was resonating with retail consumers. Our dealership down there was RV1. I know they have, I think, some stores up in your neck of the woods.
Yep.
And did a great job for us at the show, and had a lot of fun while we were down there.
Yeah, they do a great job. They certainly know how to work a show and sell units and get people comfortable with them. Take a step back and talk a little bit about that crowdsourcing, because I followed you guys from day one, and I thought
that's an important part of our story. And so we met, I met you when you saw our display last year in January at the Tampa RV show. We had 4 fifth wheels on display, and really we were along the way as we were developing the brand. And we're a fifth wheel manufacturer, so we do high-end, full-time fifth wheels along with high-end fifth wheel toy haulers. But when we were coming out, it was we were sharing our story and our product along the way. So we would build the bedroom and kind of show some of the features, and we'd share it with our Facebook group, and they would weigh in and say, well, we like this and we really don't like this, you guys should consider making a change. And so we were really kind of, every step along the way was crowdsourced from the end consumer. So it didn't need to be my idea, it didn't need to be the engineering team's idea, it didn't need to be purchasing's idea. It was really, quite frankly, driven by the end consumer. And I think that's why things have gone so well here early on for us.
Well, there's a couple of things with regard to that. You did not restrict people from talking about other manufacturers. They could say this manufacturer has this floor plan. Are you going to do something like that? Or when you posted your floor plans, they didn't hesitate to say, I like this, or I don't like that, or can you make the bed, bigger?
Right.
So you actually did give them a really good forum to talk one-on-one. And then the other thing that's very interesting, Bill Martin, who I've known for years, he jumps right in there and answers you guys are not afraid to answer every question, and every one of you gave every prospect and every customer your cell phone number.
Yeah, we do a lot of that. Our cell phone numbers are all over our pages, and and Bill Martin does. You're right; he leads the charge, and in fact, he was our first hire at the company. Bill's actually also a part owner of the business as well. So having that early on, really, customer centric, customer focused, customer service focused has been really good along the way. Yep. Another thing you mentioned too, because you've been following us on our Facebook group, is we'll give the consumer a couple of different options for different floor plans. And I remember early on, one of our first floor plans, we gave, I think it was 3 different bedroom configurations. And we said, hey, please vote for us. Which bedroom configuration do you think is the best? And we've got the votes, tally the vote, and whatever was the best one we went with, and it worked. So it's been going quite well there from that regard.
I saw some quotes in the trade press yesterday about your success in Florida this year, and you went from 4 units in last year when you were there, and now you had 11 plus the new toy hauler. And you quoted that your sales were really good, and of course everybody was watching Florida, and we seem to talk about it every week on the show, because that's going to be the bell ringer for can we do shows and can we do them successfully? And Florida proved that you can on all counts. They had less people, but they had more sales, so really qualified people. Is that what you found in your display?
We did, yeah. It was certainly down traffic wise. They said I think it was 25% off traffic wise, but definitely a more motivated customer coming through. We had customers, actually the other nice thing is we had customers coming from greater distance too, because there's not many shows, as you're aware, across New England and the Midwest. We had some of those consumers that were flying down or driving down just to get a look at the latest product offering, with everything in one spot, able to jump from display to display. But I think the Florida Trade Association did a really good job. People were masked up the entire time. It was outside, that helped. There was actually less units on display this year compared to prior years, so the RVs were spaced out just a little bit more. So I felt it was really a safe environment for people to work in and consumers to shop in. So by all accounts, it was a tremendous success.
One of the things I'm always curious about when we have new companies come in is how you came up with the name Alliance RV. Sometimes there's great stories behind names, and some it was an accident. How did you come up with the name?
Yeah, no, this wasn't an accident. It was intentional. And Alliance RV is it's an alliance. Truly, it's an alliance with not only, we talked about the customer, certainly an alliance with our customer, but we want to be really an alliance with our vendor partners here in town, here in Elkhart, Indiana. We want to be in alliance with the community that we live in. I was born and raised in Elkhart, Indiana. We're founded and headquartered here in Elkhart, Indiana. We want to be a good community partner. And then we also want to be in alliance with our employees and our team members. And we're doing some things just to make a really good work environment for our team, have fun each day while we're at the office. So that's the story behind the Alliance RV. We want to be in alliance with all the parties we do business with.
I know you introduced the Valor, your luxury toy hauler, high-end toy hauler. Tell us a little bit about the Valor, and people may not realize you're in that marketplace right now.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, so with COVID and all these less shows, it's actually kind of a little bit of a disadvantage for us as a newer company. We're hoping to be in more shows this winter, but so the Valor hauler is a high-end hauler. We're doing some things just a little bit differently with how we came out. Again, it's customer crowdsourced on the consumer side. We have a really good product lead with Jeremiah Dumka, who's helping really was the lead on the product design, but it was, again, driven by consumers. We're doing some things with, being the masters of 12 volt. We did put a 12 volt refrigerator in this Valor with a onboard standard solar package, lithium ion battery standard. We did some things with an onboard air compressor, standard for Moride. We went with a weatherproof ramp door, so there's no wood-based products in our ramp door. It can be out and exposed in the elements. And so those are the big highlights. Also, it's got a great exterior look and interior look. We got great reviews and comments and feedback down in Tampa. That was our first show, our real show with Valor. We had 4 on display, so our first 4 floor plans were on display down there. And we got good feedback. We also got some good takeaways too. I think there's a couple of things that we're going to just modify very slightly here in the next 30 days as we're back here in Elkhart now and gather that feedback. So, but yeah, that's a great product that we're very excited about this year.
Well, and the feedback's important, and you've proven that from day one, that you're listening to your customers and you're listening to your prospects. And like I say, you've got some good feedback from Florida, so you'll act immediately on those types of things. So that's a good sign from a manufacturing standpoint.
Yeah, I think one of the things that when we came out, we had a meeting at the open house, the dealer open house in Elkhart here in the fall of 2019. And one of the things that we said to our dealerships that came through that were considering us is that we would only come out with 1 brand per year. So we're sticking to that. I think if you rush to market with brands too quickly, you don't get the product right. You miss the mark in a lot of ways. So, we came out with Paradigm, the high-end fifth wheel, last year. This year, it's all about the high-end Valor. And then as we get into the fall of 2021, we'll have our mid-price fifth wheel that'll be coming out to the market. And that'll be shorter lengths, lighter weights than what we're currently offering with Paradigm.
That's great. So that's your game plan for this year in terms of the mid-range fifth wheel, which is really a big marketplace there in terms of consumer attraction, that's for sure. What else is on the drawing board for you?
Well, we got, the biggest thing right now for us is infrastructure. We need, we're here situated on about 100 acres of land here in Elkhart, and we need additional capacity. So that's what's on the drawing board, is trying to get some additional buildings up, and which will allow us to have the future growth. So yeah, lots to do. And we'll be busy for sure this year.
A lot on the drawing board. Coley, I want to thank you very much for joining us today, and best of luck with Alliance RV. You're off to a great start, and you're certainly making some waves out there.
Well, thank you, Bob. I appreciate you having me on today.
All right. Take care.
Great.
Are you using Google Maps to guide your RV?
Hey guys, it's Phil and Stacy from You, Me, and the RV. And we want you to travel safely and avoid those low bridges.
With RV Life, your phone will become an RV Safe GPS, providing turn-by-turn directions based on the dimensions of your RV. Don't buy an expensive RV GPS. RV Life has you covered and will keep you going in the right direction.
Want to know more about RV Safe GPS? Head on over to rvlife.com and learn about the entire RV bundle. You'll thank us later.
Back to this segment of the Camper Report Show. My name is John DePietro, and as I've been saying over and over again, one of the coolest parts about RVing as an RVer is that you get to meet people from all over the place. Not only all over the place geographically, but every different walk of life imaginable you'll find on the campground. So with the pandemic rearing its ugly head in the last year, there are several groups of people, several categories of people that are looking at RVing that never really looked at it seriously before. And at the same time with this pandemic, there are some businesses and categories of businesses that have been either severely curtailed or really put into a virtual standstill. And when you spend your time as an internationally acclaimed speaker and author and make your living in the live events industry, that is certainly a category that has been put on hold. So in this segment of the Camper Report Show, we kind of have the daily double for you, an internationally acclaimed author and speaker who's just entered into the RV lifestyle. And with that being said, let me welcome Mr. David Meerman Scott to the Camper Report Show. David is the author of 11 books, and they're all about marketing, PR, and related fields. And I got introduced to David about 10 years ago with the book called The New Rules of Marketing and PR, which is now in its 7th edition and has been printed in 29 different languages. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about another one of David's books called Fanocracy. And David, welcome so much to the Camper Report Show, and welcome again to the RV Lifestyle.
Thank you, John. It's so great to be here. You and I have been buddies now for more than a decade. I never thought that I would own an RV. I think when we used to connect back before COVID, I was like, nah, not for me. But here I am. I'm an owner.
You're an owner, and tell us about how you became interested in, outside of probably being prompted for more than a decade from our colleague Bob Zagami, who's
the two of you,
several other segments on this show. Tell us about the learning curve that you might have had to adapt to in order to buy your first RV, to find the one that was best suited for you and your family.
Yeah. So first of all, I have been a camper since I was really young, starting in Boy Scouts. The troop I belonged to, we camped in New York State. We camped every month out of the year, and it's including January and February. It was cold. And then as an adult, I camped a number of times, a little bit of car camping, but I also did a super cool expedition a couple of different times out of a property that I'm a part owner of in Panama. And most recently, I helped devise an ocean to ocean human-powered expedition from the Atlantic to the Pacific Ocean in Panama. And we started by doing some kayaking. Then we did some mountain biking. Then we did some hiking. And then we did some more kayaking. And it took a full week. And then as far as we know, it had never been done before. So I'm an outdoors person. I've been doing this for a long time. And as you said, I'm an international speaker. I've been to 107 countries, all 7 continents. And when the pandemic hit, I haven't been on an airplane since March 2020. And I'm like, man, I need adventure in my life. So
you're one of the last people to fly.
Sorry?
You're one of the last people to fly if you made it all the way to March 20th, because Bob and I were almost ripped off the plane on March 13th coming back from LA to Boston.
No, it was actually March 3rd. I said March 2020. So yes,
I'm sorry.
I haven't been on a plane since March, and having been on planes 3 or 4 or 5 times a month, I was traveling, and I needed adventure in my life. So I started poking around, and I got really excited about the 4-wheel drive camper van category. And so I did a bunch of research on that, and I asked Bob for some advice. And I ended up buying a Winnebago Revel that I'm now in the process of doing a bunch of upgraded modifications to.
Not the exact one, but similar to that one.
Exactly right. Very, very close to that. Mine's a little bit newer, doesn't have the graphics on it, and it's a little bit more bells and whistles. But yeah, it's super cool. It's 4-wheel drive. It's small. It fits into a standard parking space. I feel like I can manage the RV stuff going on in there. It's enough to learn. And there's this a super, super interesting community on Facebook with 8,000 members of other owners, of wannabe owners, of people who represent different outfitters that make different bits and bobs for it. And so I spent about 3 months on that forum before I pulled the trigger, and that group was super helpful in helping me to make the decision.
So David, when you say you are an adventurer,
yeah.
I'm guessing that you are not the person who's looking to buy a seasonal spot at a campground in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina.
No, that's not me. We already own a vacation property on an island, so we've got the vacation property on the island. I'm a part owner of a 10,000 acre nature preserve in Panama. So I've got my fixed bases, and we have a primary residence out of the Boston area. This is for getting out into the wilderness, if you will. And I will certainly probably go to established campgrounds here and there, particularly if I'm on the way to somewhere that's a little bit further away. But primarily, I want to be off grid. I want to be far away. I want to be remote. I want to be able to maybe not see anybody else, not see any other campers, not smell anyone else's campfire, certainly not hear someone else's dogs running through my spot. And so that means I have to get off the beaten path. I don't need nor want a hookup. And so a vehicle like this, where I'm doing an upgrade to the electrical system, I'll be able to be off grid for, a week at a time, no problem. So that's what I was looking for.
So would you find that, in the research that you did looking into what to buy, that the RV industry really does offer somewhat of something for everyone? And you're at one extreme where the other person who might want a 45-foot diesel pusher with four, 50-inch screens and all of the amenities of a house, that's not your thing. But did you find that it was out there?
Yeah, well, I was surprised because I didn't even think of this particular, I don't know if you call it a category, I didn't even think of this idea until I was actually at a parking lot waiting for a ferry to take me to an island. This was probably summer of 2020. And I noticed, it wasn't a Revel, but I noticed a tricked out camper van. And like, oh my God, that thing is super cool. Look at that thing. That is awesome. And so I went over and I took a look at it. It's a Sportmobile. And so then that got me to the Google machine. I think even before I got on the ferry, I had my mobile phone out and I was Googling Sportmobile. And then that led to the research of who else does these things. Bob and I had a couple conversations, and he suggested I check out the Winnebago, which I did, and that's ultimately what I ended up buying. And the reason I went with the Winnebago instead of going with something that was more custom is there are two reasons. Number one, I'm a newbie. I have no idea what I want in terms of the fixtures and the fittings. So I didn't want to look at a floor plan and say, oh, where do you want your sink? It's like, I don't know where I want my sink. So having a purpose-built one that's all ready to go off the shelf from Winnebago made sense there. And the other was delivery time. I want it now. The pandemic is now. I want to get in this vehicle now. I don't want to wait. And so, there's a little bit of a wait time for a Winnebago Revel. It was a couple of weeks, but if I had to place an order for a custom model, it would be 6 or 9 months. So for that reason, I ended up going with the Revel, and I love it. It's great. And I think of it as a base. And then I've worked with a couple of different outfitters to upgrade various bits and pieces. I'm upgrading the electrical system. I'm upgrading the suspension. I'm adding an auxiliary fuel tank to give me twice as much fuel. So I'm going to go from 350 miles roughly to about 700 miles roughly. I'm putting a winch up front because I'm going to do some four-wheeling on logging roads and whatnot. So if I end up, getting stuck in the mud, I can pull myself out, So I added a cell phone booster. So, that kind of stuff on a Revel is perfect because it's all upgradable based on the specifications that I figured I need after having owned this thing now for, what has it been, 3 months.
Okay, so 100,000 miles a year on an airplane, hotels in cities all over the world where many times I'm sure you awakened in the morning and did not know where you were.
That has happened.
Has happened.
Yes.
With the solitude that is available to you in the upcoming future, is there a book somewhere in that solitude, David?
Isn't that interesting? I don't know, Bob. I've done, as you said, 11 books, and I'm always looking for what's the next book, but I don't know what it is right now. It is a fascinating topic. It's super interesting to me. I'll tell you what, I always used to look for the next adventure to be where the airplane is going to take me, what country I'm going to be dropped off at, what, the next stamp in the passport. But I'm really excited about the next adventure being where in about 100 or 200 miles from my home can I find somewhere super interesting to be able to get out into a place that's quiet and serene, and where I can really relax. And that's a really different kind of thing, and I'm super excited about it.
So from the aspect of being on the road and going to different places, it's no secret that you've been to over 800 concerts. Now, might you be one of those people that goes to a concert a couple days beforehand? And put it this way, when we get concerts back, I know I've been to a couple of Jimmy Buffett shows where people go 2-3 days in advance and kind of chill. Is that on your radar?
Well, what I will plan on, and by the way, of the 804 live concerts that I've been to, you and I have gone at least one together, so we can mark off on the list that we same show, which I appreciate, by the way. So here's what I'm super excited for. I love music festivals, and I've been to, I don't know, 15 or 20 music festivals. I've been to Lollapalooza. I've been to Outside Lands in San Francisco. Lollapalooza's in Chicago. I've been to Boston Calling in the Boston area, Gathering of the Vibes, which is in Connecticut, and some other ones. And I have camped a few times at festivals, but in a tent. And I've also gone to some festivals that are in cities where I've stayed in hotels. But I'm really excited to find some of the festivals, for example, Bonnaroo, where there's camping on site, and to drive my new Isabella is her name, to drive Isabella to a festival and have a luxurious place to stay. And I would imagine driving into Bonnaroo with that kind of vehicle, with a little tiny $quarter Grateful Dead sized Grateful Dead sticker on the back, that people will be going, look at this guy living in luxury, sleeping in a bed and having a toilet and a sink and everything, and Wi-Fi connection. Look at that guy. So I'm looking forward to that for sure.
So there was a story that appeared about you that included you not too long ago in Down East magazine, which is, they say Down East, it's only a certain part of Maine, but really it's a national, if not international publication. That said you used your Revel to visit your mom.
I did.
At a facility that probably would not have been capable if you didn't have your own isolation unit, if you will.
Well, my 85-year-old mother lives in a condominium 3 hours from where I live. And I try my best to see her on a regular basis, but since COVID, I will not go in her house. So I need a place to go to the bathroom. I need a place to, if I'm going to stay over, a place to stay. And, I don't want her to get COVID. So I think it was the second trip I took with the Revel. The first one was to pick it up. It was November of 2020, and I was looking on the weather report, and it's going to be really warm. It's going to be like 65 degrees and sunny. So I'm like, I'm there. So I got in Isabella, and I drove 3 hours down to where my mother is, parked in her little tiny driveway. It's just enough for one car. It fit the vehicle perfectly. And I had my own self-contained mini house. And then I went around to the back where she's got a nice patio and a table and chairs. And we had a wonderful dinner. And then I went and slept in Isabella. And the next morning we had breakfast together, and it was fabulous. And just because of the lack of a bathroom and other bits, I don't know. I just wouldn't have done that otherwise. I don't want to go into her house even to use the bathroom.
Well, and that's certainly, there are so many people now that are getting away in these units because for the people that don't have to go to a physical office anymore, are now hitting the road. and the connectivity that's available in these is amazing.
Yes.
And plus, there are young families that are taking their kids across the country because with virtual schools, they just need internet.
Right.
They don't need to be in a certain geographic location anymore. Totally.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, this unit is, on one hand, it's big, depending on how you look at it, but I don't know that I want a family in it, although there are lots of families who do.
Yeah.
My wife and I are fine for a couple of days. We will maybe venture for a week and see how it works. But you know, it'll get small fairly quickly if it's raining for a week.
Exactly.
But you're right. There's a ton of things you can do with them.
So hopefully this is visible. Can you see your book?
Yeah.
You can see your book there. There is a whole chapter on the RV industry.
Indeed.
And how it can reach out to its own customers to make those customers more in love with RVing.
Yes.
Give us a brief description of what we can find in this book.
Yeah. So the idea of fanocracy is how can you, number one, tap people who are fans already of something, fans of RVs already, or music, or whatever it might be, and how can you develop fans of any business? And these ideas work for anybody. It works for doctors and lawyers and dentists and accountants and B2B companies and nonprofits and government agencies and big companies and small companies. And we have examples of all of those. I wrote the book with my daughter, Reiko, who's 27 years old now. She's currently an emergency doctor doing her residency at Boston Medical Center. And when we were writing the book, she was in medical school. So we have the perspective of an, shall we say, middle-aged white Grateful Dead fan and a mixed race, my wife is Japanese, mixed race millennial woman who loves Harry Potter. And we came together to write this book. And it's super interesting. And what I loved about the RV industry is the RV industry has rabid fans. And so I wanted to look at that. I wanted to look at how fans are built from the perspective of the companies that are in the industry and from the industries in general. And it's super, super interesting. So it was a great case example of how to build fans effectively.
Yeah, exactly. And we will put a link down there with the book.
Thank you.
And the other thing, David, is when I asked you a question, your answer usually gave me 3 more questions to come up with. But with the limited time frame that we have here, we're just about out of time. But I do want to ask you that if we have the capability to connect with you after you've got a couple of trips under your belt, back onto the show and tell us how you liked it. And, you know,
I'd love to do that. Yeah, let's do it. Let's figure that out. Absolutely.
So we want to thank David Meerman Scott. He's the author of Fanocracy and 10 other books. We'll have his website down below here. And he is going to be embarking on his first full season of RVing in the very near future.
Absolutely. Thanks, John.
With that being said, David, thank you so much.